From the campus of Buena Vista University on the shores of Storm Lake, this is Inside Beaver Athletics.
Fasten your seatbelts, here we go.
He's gonna blow it! Beavers win! Beavers win!
And the Beaver students rush the floor.
Buena Vista wins!
And now the Director of Athletic Communications, Stephen Phelps.
Hello once again, Beaver Nation, and welcome to this episode of Inside Beaver Athletics. Today I am proud to be joined by Buena Vista University Director of Cheer, Dance, and Stunt, Kezia Molinsky. And Kezia, this 7-day stretch is probably one of your busiest of the year, so we really appreciate you taking a little bit of time out of this crazy schedule to sit and have a conversation with us here this afternoon.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.
And so I don't know if we've really had a conversation with you since we've started this, so I think what we'll do is we'll just go ahead and begin by just giving us a little bit of your personal coaching background and maybe give the listeners a little bit of your personal background.
Perfect. I have a long background, so I'll try to make it as short as possible. I started cheerleading, the traditional sideline and competitive cheerleading in high school, and I continued that on through college. And I knew I wanted to be a teacher, and I felt like maybe I could coach cheerleading because I still was really interested in the sport and wanted to stay involved in it and help me become more marketable in finding a job. So I started coaching at the high school level when I was a junior in college, and I ended up getting a teaching job at that school. So I coached there for 16 years while I was teaching high school social studies. I really loved it, and we were really successful competitively, and I started feeling like I was going to work every day, not to be the best teacher I could be, but to be the best coach, and felt like maybe it was time for me to make this my full-time job. And so I started looking for full-time collegiate coaching positions. And that led me to a small college in the San Francisco Bay Area where I stayed for 6 years and competed and did sideline and started a dance team where I oversaw that. And eventually that school cut their football team. And then the next year, sadly, their cheer and their whole spirit program was cut. And that's when I saw the job posting here at Buena Vista University. Had never been to Iowa, and I came out for a job interview in June, and I was just blown away by the beauty of this town and how nice everybody was, and how it really felt like a family within the athletic department. Well, the person that interviewed me was Amy, and I felt like she was super supportive of the program and would be willing to give this program the attention and the time and the resources that it needed to flourish. And I was offered the position and couldn't turn it down. So fast forward 8 years later, this is my 30th year consecutively coaching, and I'm really excited that that year is happening here at BVU in charge of great programs in cheer, stunt, and dance.
And one of my next questions was going to be what attracted you most to this position at BVU. You've alluded to it a little bit. What was probably one of the bigger surprises, never been to Iowa, probably the Midwest, coming from the West Coast area? Obviously, you came in June when, the weather was pleasant. Yeah. Have you come for the interview in, January, you might have had different thoughts going through your mind when you got here.
Not sure I'd be sitting here.
But what was maybe the biggest adjustment that you had to make just from a lifestyle standpoint, the climate standpoint, just coming from the West Coast to the Midwest?
So great question. All of those, the positives of this area and the people and the university and the support that I receive far outweighs the weather here that we get. But I do feel a great amount of respect for the people that have lived here their whole lives to deal with that weather. But I could buy a house here and I can get where I'm going in a few minutes, and I can park close at the grocery store and I can wave to my neighbors. And that's really important to me. The type of lifestyle I was going to give my daughter was, where was she going to grow up and what type of people was she going to be around was really important. So the weather is not great, but all of those positives definitely exceeded my expectations.
And now we'll shift gears to the coaching side of it. When you got here, obviously there was no stunt program. You were the one that orchestrated it. At what point, or maybe it was even before you got here, you had in your mind that, this might be a good opportunity to continue building that foundation of stunt when you got here? At what point did you realize that this was a perfect opportunity to build that stunt program?
Okay, so when I was back in San Francisco, I had started stunt at the college I was at, and then I also was coaching a high school team, and I knew that I loved the structure of it. I knew that I loved the game. I knew that it gave, cheer athletes, gymnasts, people from that type of background an opportunity to show their skills and compete at a high level. But it was really starting to show that they were athletes, and it was showing that respect for the craft and the athleticism that they have. And I knew that I wanted to do that wherever I went. And luckily, when I came here, Amy had already met with some of the stunt people at the NCAA convention, and she was on board for it. And I felt like it would be a good fit, and she was super supportive. We had a meeting about it one day. She asked, okay, can you write out the budget? Can you look at logistically what that will be? And she has been on board since the minute I, talked to her about doing it.
And just because it's such a new sport, an emerging sport, give the listeners a little bit of a background on what the sport of stunt is and how it developed and how it differs from, the cheerleading and the dance side of that aspect.
Absolutely. I believe the founders of Stunt were looking for another opportunity to give women at the collegiate level an opportunity to compete and to be Title IX compliant. And I'm hoping that in the deepest of their heart that they were looking at trying to find a way to get some respect for these cheerleading athletes and gymnasts. My understanding is that Stunt has been competing for about a decade now. It takes all the athletic portions of cheerleading and gymnastics and turns it into a 4-quarter game where you compete head-to-head against another team doing the exact same specific skills that the other team is doing at the exact same time. And the scoring is not based on uniforms or hair. It's just based on doing the skill to the cleanest perfection that you possibly can. And it's easy for people that are watching to understand, okay, this team went out. I could clearly see why they earned the point and why they didn't. Whereas at a traditional cheerleading competition, you may not know, well, why didn't that team win? Or you don't get the scoring because it can vary from competition to competition. So it standardized the process of scoring in our sport and made it easy to understand and more of like a sport format that I think most people that watch sports, follow sports would understand.
Buena Vista is the only college or university in the state of Iowa that currently has a stunt program. Is there, in your mind, or have you heard of any other, institutions or colleges in Iowa or even, around the Midwest that are considering adding a stunt program here in the very near future?
I have spoken with a few teams in our actual ARC conference that have talked about or looked at or wanting to propose to their athletic directors about starting a stunt program. But as of now, I don't know of any that are fully on board for that. I would highly recommend it for anybody, even our small school size. It's very doable, and I could tell them things to do with smaller rosters or ways to make it work while they're building the program. So great opportunity to be another athletic sport at the collegiate level and help out with male-female offerings and such.
It would definitely cut down the travel aspect tremendously, having some more teams or competitions that could be closer by and not have to travel the 4 or 5+ hour distances every time you guys wanted to compete. So obviously would be a plus in that standpoint. We're in year 4 now of competitive stunt here at Buena Vista. From the point you started the program up until now, the last 4 years, what would be your overall takeaways on the progression of the program in those 4 years?
I've been really excited about our improvements, and maybe sometimes our overall record doesn't show that, but the understanding of the game and the growth of these athletes from year 1 to year 4. I have 3 seniors currently that were on that first year team, and watching them grow in the sport and learn the strategy has been great. And we're working as a coaching staff to recruit people that fill the position needs that we need, and we're getting more specific that we really know this person's graduating, this is what we need to be able to fill the rounds and be more competitive. And I think we're getting a better grasp on all of that. So in those 4 years, the growth has been tremendous, and I think that this year we should be able to show that with that win-loss record.
That leads me into one of my next questions about recruiting. As a coach, what are some of the specifics that you look for in athletes individually, specifically for stunt? Are you looking for just someone that can do stunt overall? Are you looking for just branches of cheer and a dance and trying to combine that together? What are your specific qualities that you're looking for when you're going out and recruiting certain individuals?
Oh, it really just depends on where we're going to be graduating people from. So if like this year, I have a large graduating class of top girls flyers, the ones that go up in the air. So we knew we really needed to bring in an incoming class in 2026 that was going to fill those needs. We're always looking for tumblers, so gymnasts. And I guess to be more specific with answering your question, we're looking for people that are well-rounded, that they can do their position as far as the stunting is concerned, either going up in the air or basing, holding the girls up in the air, or they can contribute in the tumbling rounds for us. So really just looking at where our weaknesses are going to be and where we need to improve on each year, and who's returning and who's not, and injuries and all of that stuff to make that our roster complete with all of our needs.
They're probably not as exposed to stunt overall, so how do you get them to mentally prepare, physically prepare for what they're getting into, for those that are new to the sport of stunt?
Right. So we watch a lot of video. We'll post, videos of, hey, there was a game and this is, the best to do it in the game. Watch them. Here's what people our school size are putting out on the floor. This is how it works. We do a lot of scrimmaging or a lot of walking through the game. But really, it comes down to that first tournament that we go to, and either sitting in the bleachers and watching that first game gives them a little bit of a taste of it, but playing in their first game is just instrumental to get them through that. And then once they've gotten through that first game and the competitive jitters and all of that stuff, we really start to focus in and start doing better in tournaments, beyond that date. So really, it's just exposure to it and trial by fire.
And you mentioned earlier that you have 3 seniors on this year's roster that were, on that first stunt program here at BVU. 2 of those were All-Americans last year. So how can you lean on those 2 individuals specifically to just help guide the others through, especially the younger ones through the program?
Yeah, they've been instrumental in keeping them calm and talking through what the game looks like and setting an incredible example during game times where, there may be a round that doesn't go the way we want, or we have a pyramid collapse, worst case scenario, and that they come back off and they're calm, cool, and collected and really gather the team together and show them, hey, we got to put that one aside. And it's like you might hear a basketball player, next play, just moving on to the next one. Because in traditional cheerleading, you get one opportunity. In stunt, you get multiple. And so it's really teaching their brain to work on that, to let it go. And I feel like those seniors have been really helpful in every year that they've been a part of it to really be leaders for the rest of the team on the floor.
And when we talk about the roster a little bit more specifically, can you just break down the roster in terms of, your upperclassmen and your underclassmen, and then some of the areas across the region where you're pulling some of your cheer and stunt, athletes from?
So right now, I would say of our roster of 20, 10 have played the stunt game before. 10 are rookies. Some of those rookies that we're getting, we're really excited. We have a really talented girl from Arizona who's coming in, and she's filling a tumbling and a basing role for us. We have a crossover athlete from volleyball here at Buena Vista who's filling in a back basing role and a tumbling role for us that are rookies. What's really fun about them is that they're coming in and being impact players as freshmen and filling that role for us really, really well. We have a lot of people, obviously, from Iowa, even Nebraska, which is crazy because Nebraska's been what we call in our world grounded for so long. They haven't been allowed to do any stunting. So it was people that came in and wanted to learn how to do that. And I think that's what's beautiful about the Division III model. We take people that don't have some of those backgrounds and we can develop that in them and teach them all of those things. So really, we're pulling people from all over. We've had people from Texas, and we're recruiting people from Tennessee and Missouri that want to come here and be a part of what we're doing.
And with such a young group, or a younger group, or maybe even you consider it more of a balanced group of newcomers and veteran experience, you kicked off your competition schedule here just this last week, and you went up against 3 of the 4 games that you played in were against nationally ranked opponents from 2 of them from the Division II level, and then a pretty high-ranked team from the NAIA level. When you have to go against teams of that caliber right away, obviously, you want to go out and try and compete as hard as you can, but at the same time, it's a really good eye-opener and just gets them to know exactly what it's going to take to be successful from the get-go. Just talk a little bit about what your team performed this last weekend.
Yeah, so the first thing I said to them was, look, we're starting off our season with a team that has gone to the national tournament pretty much every year that I can remember, and that's Maryville University, who's ranked really, really high. They're really, really good, and I told them, if we're going to lose, you're going to learn. We're going to learn more about the game. We're going to learn more about the technique. We're going to learn more about how we play it. And so that was really, really important. And I think that goal was definitely achieved. And we were able to see in a game time experience what we were lacking and where we needed to really focus our attention. We only have 2 days of practice this week to get ready for this next tournament. But we were able to make a list. Here's all of the things that we need to check off and do that. So they were really talented. CMU as well, and even Quincy, they had just nice size rosters and just really talented individuals. We played St. Norbert, which is a new Division III out of Wisconsin, and they came in with a very small roster, but gosh, they had such great technique and the skills that they did do. We were really happy to get a win at the Division III level and very happy with the way that we performed in that and the way that my team handled a win. They were very gracious and all of the types of sportsmanship things that I would want from a team that was really in place. So that was really nice to see. So just really preparing us, even in a lost time situation, about how we're going to go into this weekend where we're playing all Division IIIs and 2 conference opponents, and really like to come out with some wins on that to have a good footing in our overall standings.
And with the schedule just being condensed into, essentially about a 1 month time, maybe a month and a half, depending on how the schedule aligns itself, you have a conference tournament mixed in there. And then now coming up, starting next year, you'll have the division, the NCAA national championships. It was voted on to make it an NCAA-sanctioned championship sport. So how does that make you feel as a coach that you've got to that level so quickly?
I think personally and professionally, it was a goal of mine throughout my career to just really get that recognition for these athletes as doing something that is deserving of that type of exposure and recognition, and to have the NCAA agree with us on that is really exciting. And I'm really excited for those young ladies to be able to graduate from this program and be able to tell their kids that they were a part of this and they were, some of the first to be recognized in that way. And as difficult as a championship may be with all of the divisions being combined, I'm really excited to be a part of the championship committee that will be deciding how that will look and hopefully be able to give a voice to Division III schools about how we can be incorporated into that championship structure so that we're not completely left out and we can be competitive and have a good showing. So there's just a lot of things to look forward to, and I'm really excited to be a part of it.
And we've kind of spent a majority of this conversation talking specifically about stunt coming up here. Also this weekend, in addition to your stunt competition on Friday and Saturday, you turn around on Sunday and have the American Rivers Conference Cheer and Dance Championships. It also has a little bit of a stunt competition within that, and you guys were champions of that category last year when BV was the host. So just talk about the overall weekend, the schedule, and just how your team shapes up for the American Rivers Conference Championships as well.
Yeah, so a very busy weekend, but we're really looking forward to it. And if we can get rid of some of this illness and injury that we're experiencing right now, we're ready. We've got 2 teams competing in the group stunt category, whereas last year we had 1. So we expect to be really competitive in that. The teams were practicing last night and they'll be performing tomorrow night. So we should see how that looks on the floor and be able to make adjustments moving forward. Our dance team will be bringing 3 routines, and they had an amazing showing at the ISDTA state competition, and we expect them to be even stronger and better this weekend. So really excited for the stunt aspect of things, and then the traditional cheer and the dance portion of it. It's just a great competition weekend for us.
Well, it's definitely going to be a busy schedule this weekend and then over the next month as you continue to go into the competition schedule. So we really appreciate the time today. But before we let you go, I've got a couple of questions, a rapid-fire series of questions here. Nothing too stressful or anything like that. Just a fun way to end up the conversation today. So I guess with further ado, the question number 1 would be, what's Kezia's favorite type of music and maybe your favorite artist?
Oh, goodness gracious. I think I listen to all sorts of different kinds. Living in Iowa, I've definitely learned to love country music and really have an appreciation for that and find myself picking that station on Pandora. I like pop music. I have a 16-year-old daughter, so she keeps me, listening to all of that kind of stuff. Favorite artist? Oh, my goodness, this is a loaded question right now.
And when you're involved with cheer and stunt and dance, you listen to all sorts of music and have to put routines together, so it probably makes it difficult.
Yeah, I like anything that motivates my teams. I'll leave it at that.
There you go.
Okay.
Can't go wrong there. Outside of coaching, what are a couple of your top hobbies?
Oh, okay. I love to golf. That is one of the biggest things I'm doing in the summer. I love to read. I love to cook. I bake. I think that I love to travel to warm places when it's cold here. So, yeah, I think
that leads me right into the next question. What's your top travel destination, whether it's in the country or the world?
Oh, goodness. So I don't mean to brag, but I've been really fortunate to be able to spend Easter in the Virgin Islands with my daughter, and we'll be there again this Easter. So,
hey, perfect. And then the final question would be a go-to blizzard from Dairy Queen.
Oh, my goodness. I love an Oreo blizzard. That would probably be my top go-to, or M&M. So Yeah, thank you.
You bet, and a great way to end the conversation. Kezia, we really appreciate the time to speak with us this afternoon, and best of luck throughout the rest of the season.
Thank you so much.
Inside Beaver Athletics is presented to members of the BV Club and friends of Buena Vista University Athletics. We thank you for your support of our athletes. Until next time, go Beavers!